Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts. Welcome to my craft room. I recently had a request to show how I knit. I knit Continental, which means I'm a right-handed knitter. This is the main needle that does all the work and stitches go from left to right. But as a Continental knitter, if I untangle myself, it just means that I hold the yarn in my left hand. I believe it's called like English knitting when you hold it in your right hand. And as you're knitting, you kind of do this a lot and stuff. But that's not how I taught myself to knit. I came into knitting from crochet. When I crochet, I'm right-handed, so you hold the hook in your right hand. And then you use the yarn in your left hand, and you just crochet like this. So when I came over to knitting, I looked at the different ways. I had a book on how to knit, and you just kind of follow pictures with little directions. Did not understand the directions, could barely understand the diagrams, so I just kind of tried what they were doing sort of the best I could and winged it from there. If you've been here for a while, you know I just kind of wing things and do it however it works for me. So I'm just going to sit here and babble on about knitting and life in general and stuff and show you how I knit. But before we get going, look at this. Can you see this backdrop here? Isn't this really cool? This is Minky. A customer sent it to me. I need to make some burp cloths and bibs for a gender neutral because they don't know they're not choosing to decide to see what the baby's going to be before it's born. So we're doing it in all grays. But this is like some really nice looking Minky. It's very low loft. I still think it's a Minky. I'm not sure, but either way, it's making a really great backdrop today, right? Okay, so I'm working on a hat today, and just to give you a little information in case anyone asked, if you're not a knitter, you might not understand, but if you knit, I did a provisional cast on because I'm doing the Midas hat, and when you do this one, it has a folded brim. You knit, for this one I have to knit 28 rows. I'm pretty sure it's a free pattern. I don't normally buy hat patterns. But then you fold it up, and it has a double wide brim, and it doesn't have any ribbing. So that's what I'm working on here, and that's why it's curling, and it's got this strange color on the bottom. Kind of looks like a weird little skirt. But I thought I'd show you how I knit in the round. I have the needles in my right hand. I kind of just let them sit on my fingers like this. And I really don't hold my needles very, very tight. But when I do the yarn in my left hand, let's see if I can pay attention to what I'm doing. It goes under the pinky. I hold it in the palm. So I hold it down with my pinky. It goes up, laying on top of the middle and the ring finger, and over the first finger. And then once again, I just kind of lay the needles in this hand. I try not to hold anything too tight because you get a lot of stress and tension, and if you hold it tight, your hands get cramped up, and you have to do all these little finger exercises and to keep them loose and all that. So my tension is basically the holding it down here with my pinky. It doesn't look like I'm holding it much, but as you can see, I just let it up a little and the yarn comes out, and I just press it down and it holds it. I can also, between holding it here with my pinky and having it over the finger, it kind of makes it nice and tight and holds the tension that way. I'm about an average knitter. Sometimes it's a little bit looser when I get to larger yarns. It seems the bigger the yarn, the looser my stitching gets. So that's why I said I like to drop down. This is a size 6 that I'm using for this hat, and normally you would do it on a size 8. You can't see my yarn. It's this really nice blue, but it's Caron Simply Soft. I don't have the label on it. Anyway, let's do the actual knitting part. So I have it all tensioned over. Now, as I said, when you're doing the English knitting, they do this a lot, and they always have to let go of this needle. You see how it kind of just holds together like this? The yarn right here is holding it, and they do this, and their yarn is usually tensioned somehow across their hand, or they wrap it around their finger like this. And there's like as many ways to knit as there are knitters. Some knitters like to do this, but then as you use that off, you got to constantly keep doing this, and that's just too much like constant steps. I want to be able to knit pretty fast, so I have it like this. I like to keep my stitches close to my needles. I'm sorry about this dark yarn, but in a minute I'm going to switch. Well, I'm knitting my sweater with black yarn anyways, but hopefully you'll be able to see a little better. And then I'll just go a little slow, and this is the knit stitch because we're knitting in the round, and it's just knit, knit, knit. It automatically makes purls on the back. So then I just kind of go like this. Sometimes as I'm knitting, I'll actually move my fingers like this and bring that stitch over. And other times I might use this needle and I scoop that stitch. I just leave a little bit of space. See, I just got a little bit of yarn out there and I just scoop it. There's no reason why I do either of them. I think I do this the most, but every now and then I will do it the other way. It is a little bit hard to knit, on camera like this when you're talking. This is about my normal speed when I'm not paying attention to what's on YouTube and I'm not talking to anyone. I've kind of worked on this, the way I hold my yarn and knit and everything over the years. It's changed little by little. I used to make bigger movements and stuff with my arm until I learned how to, I kind of keep my elbows against my ribs. Not like I press them against them or anything, but that just happens to be where I keep them. I think I learned that just from the way I sit in my chair, because my chair kind of has a little curve to it, and if I put my elbows out, I'm always going to hit the chair, so I just kind of keep them in nice and tight. And then I just go. The less movements you make, they say it's better for you because you don't have to worry about carpal tunnel or knitters' fingers and wrists and thumbs or whatever. But nothing I'm holding very, very tight. I'm just kind of holding an even tension to it. And that's how I knit on the round. Let me bring my sweater over. It's a little bit brighter, as you've seen from Whip It Wednesday, and maybe we'll be able to see that a little bit better. If you come back on later when we start knitting dishcloths, I'm making sure I'm using a dishcloth yarn that we can see really well. I might even be lucky enough that I still have this minky fabric to use as my backdrop. And if not, I'll keep something nice and light and neutral so it'll be easy to see. Now right now, this is the front of my sweater, so this is a cardigan, so you go back and forth, you're not going in a circle. At the moment, I'm doing the knit stitch because I'm on the back of the sweater going back to the beginning of the row. Now, purl stitches tend to be looser than knit stitches. Oh, did I finish my thought? When we knit on the dishcloth, I'll be using just the single straight needles, so it's about the same the way I hold them. It's just, instead of it going down to the cable, you have a longer needle, but as you've seen, I use the short ones. We'll be able to see the yarn a lot better, and I'll go really slow and everything like that. But for this, she just wanted to see how I hold the yarn with my hands. So I thought, while I have it out, I may as well just babble and show you a little bit of everything. So when you're knitting the purl stitch, you're doing it, when you're doing the knit stitch, your yarn and everything is in the front of your work. This is what it always confused me, the front or the back. But I consider this the front of the sweater, so I'm going to say it's in my front of the work. No, wait, hold on. See, I told you, it's always confusing to me. I do what I do, but I don't always teach it, so that's why it gets a little hard for me. That's why I said I'm not going to actually teach you to knit. I'm just going to show you how I do it. This is the front because it's closer to me. When you're purling, you bring the yarn to the front. See? I caught on. The more I talk, the more I understand myself. And then this becomes the back, because where I'm at is the front and away from me is the back. It doesn't matter if this is the front or the back of your project. So I have the yarn to the front. I'm still holding it exactly the same. The only difference is, since I'm working on this side of the needles versus that, I just kind of do this and I bring it down. So there's a bit more movement here for purls as I just bring, let me see if you guys can see. So I bring my needle up through, take my yarn, and I'm bringing it down over my needle and pushing that loop through. Now with the purl stitch, when I was first doing it, my purl stitches were really loose and my knit stitches were relatively tight, and you wouldn't get a nice even fabric on the other side. You could see big loops and you would have to definitely block it out. And it's a little bit harder to do acrylic. It can be done, but wool is a lot easier to block. So I had to figure out a way to make sure my purl stitches were as tight as my knit stitches. And just because of the way the movements and everything is, that's what they say, that the purl stitches are just looser. So for a while there, I was going purl 2 stitches, and then I'd pull it tight. And then I would purl 2 stitches, and I'd give it a little tug, and it would tighten up those 2 stitches. Now I just kind of hold everything just a little bit tighter. And I just kind of force this down just a little bit more, and it adds a bit more to that tension. And that's how I keep my purl stitches nice and tight. Now if I notice things are slacking off a little, I'll just give it a little tug. But you're controlling, for me, I'm controlling a lot of my tension here. I have like step 1 of the tension down here in my pinky, and step 2 of the tension is up here in my finger, because I'm kind of holding it down with my pinky and pulling it with my pointer finger. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll purl to this end, and I'll flip it around, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm knitting straight. I don't really think it's any different, but we'll see as I start knitting. It's one of those things where I don't really pay attention, but a lot of the times, like when I'm knitting on the hat, I don't always even look at what I'm knitting. I can actually watch TV. Some people can read while they're knitting, and that's just a little bit too much for me. Even though I can look at the TV or a movie and knit without looking. Reading is a little bit more concentration than just watching people moving around on a TV screen and talking to you. But you see how my wrists are kind of staying. There's very little movement in my wrists at all. This one is because I'm moving my hand, it wobbles a little, but I'm not rotating my wrists around. I'm not moving my hands in these big long, some people knit like this. And this really, you're kind of, because you're having to twist that wrist all the time, and you're going to cause yourself to have some strain there. So however you decide to knit, you need to find how to do it in the littlest movements possible. It's going to be easier on your body, and it's also going to allow you to knit and purl faster. See, you can pick up some good speed. There's people definitely that knit and purl much faster than me. This is how I can get so much done in a week. I give myself a half hour or an hour to work on a project, and then I just go crazy like this. So I may not work on it very often during the week, but I try to make the time that I spend on each project really valuable, and I pay attention to what I'm doing, and I try not to get too distracted. Now, of course, there's always going to be just outside distractions outside of ourselves. But if I can keep myself from getting distracted, getting up out of my chair and wandering around all the time, I can get more done. Alright, so now we're back to the front and we're going to knit again. I'm just going to knit a little bit, and then I'll let you guys go, and I'll see you on my next video. As I mentioned earlier, I had a request for this video, so if anyone ever has a request or something you want to see, or there's a project you'd like to watch me try to make or something, you can go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I will add it into my video rotation. If it's something simple like this that I can just pop in the middle of the week anywhere, I'll try to go ahead and get that for you. If it's a project we need to do together, like a Sew With Me on Fridays, as soon as I finish one project, I can go ahead and start that one for you. Now, granted, I'm probably not going to want to do any project that you show me. Like, Y seams is not my thing. Exact 1/4 inches and all that's not my thing. But I do like to try different projects. So if you want to see, like, I always get requests for how different projects to use that calculator tape with. So I'm trying to save up a bunch of those in my Pinterest boards so that we can test those out after. I had the request for the Quilt As You Go, so that's why we're doing the Quilt As You Go Scrappy Herringbones. So if it's a generalized technique like that, then I can bring in whatever project I want. Like, I've always wanted to make the herringbone, and I can show you how I do the Quilt As You Go. So I hope that helped you out. So I hope that helped you understand how I hold my yarn, since I hold it in my left hand. I'm a Continental knitter. I've never been able to do the English, even though I should probably try, because they say it makes color work easier if you can have a yarn in each hand. Though that would definitely take some time to get used to. So thank you guys for subscribing to my channel and leaving all the wonderful comments, and for watching all my videos. And for those of you that are new to here, welcome. And if you like to see this type of things and all the random stuff I work on, go ahead and click the little subscribe button down here, or subscribe down below. And if you ring that little bell, YouTube will let you know anytime I put up one of these random videos. And subscribing and ringing that bell, go ahead, it lets YouTube know that, hey, this girl's doing something interesting over here, and they'll put the video out for other people to see, which brings more people over to my channel, and more exposure like that is always helpful. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye!